Okay, I see I have one viewer. It's Thursday afternoon. We can't be at the range, so we'll just do a video from home. See if we get a couple of participants here. I see I've got two viewers. I don't know who's here, so if you're here, go ahead and say something in the side chat so I know you're here. And then we'll, when we get a few people, we'll take a look at this Shotshell press. It's kind of an odd one. I thought maybe some people would be interested in seeing it. We'll run a few shells and everybody can see what it looks like. So I see I'm up to 2. Hope I get a few more people before we get started here. So if anyone there has anything to say, please say it in the side chat and I'll know you're here. Weather's not bad today. It's probably between 40 and 50. A little misty. I told her the idea of going to the range. I think I'll wait till it's just a little bit warmer. I do have a meeting tonight at one of the local clubs where I shoot, so I'll head off to that in a bit. And I think that starts at 7, so we'll be there for that. Walter Bunning, I don't load shot shells, or doesn't load shotguns. He's just curious. Well, this is a vintage press, Walter. This is a Lee load fast, and it's a progressive. It's a, I guess you could say it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 station progressive, but it's really more like 6 because this station here doesn't really do anything, and then this one is just an ejection. The shell ejects out the bottom, so that's kind of just an ejection station. So it's probably more properly called a 6-station press, even though there's 8 holes in the shell plate or turret, whatever you choose to call it. Gun club closed. Well, that stinks. I haven't seen anything here about it. You know, across the state we have the 50-person maximum at a gathering. I'm guessing that sooner or later that will go to the national recommendations of 10, but we'll see what happens and play it by ear and do what we can. I've still been going to the range and shooting. My son and I shot a fair amount of trap Tuesday evening, so that was nice. And my dad came out with us and ran a few rounds, so that was cool. And I'll probably get out to the rifle range yet this week, and Sunday morning we're still scheduled to shoot skeet, so we'll do that and see how it all goes. Show 3 now, so Walter and maybe 2 others, but anyone that's out there, say something in the side chat. I know you're here, and then once we get a few, we'll start, and I'll show you guys how this press works. It's actually very interesting. From what I gather, the press was made in the 90s. I don't think it was made for very long, just a few years. It is complex, like a lot of other progressive shot shell loaders. One of the nice things about this one is like Lee does on their progressive centerfire loaders, this has case sensors, so it won't throw powder and it won't throw shot unless there's a case present. And on a progressive machine, that's a nice feature because as you're setting it up, you don't have to worry about the shot charge or the powder charge if there's not a shell in that station. One area where this press is challenging is that this turret or shell plate, it's actually the sizing die. These bore holes in the plate here, those are actually the sizers that recondition the brass on the bottom of the shot shell, and they're captive. So if you make a mistake, it's like a lot of progressive shot shell loaders. If you make a mistake, you know, getting the thing back in sequence is a real challenge. So that, you know, it is rather complex. Okay, I got a couple more. 67 Rebel SST AMC is here. Oh yeah, 67 Rebel. We're going to look at this Lee Load Fast shot shell loader today. A little bit of a live stream for a while, and it's one that most people probably haven't seen. Wasn't around for a while. If you think you know a lot about loading shot shells, get one of these and it'll teach you that you really don't. You know, it actually makes very nice shells. I mean, here's a box here that I made in a little while ago, and you know, so it does a nice job. I mean, the crimp and whatnot looks commensurate with any other shot shell press I've ever run, so it works very well. I run it rather conservatively. I don't try to go fast because if you make a mistake, it's difficult to clean up the mess. It spits the primer down the bottom and collects down here in this. I just have a little slot in the base here, so you'll hear the primer fall once we get going, and they collect right here, and then you can sweep them out into a receptacle or whatever. I'd like to build a better mount for it that takes advantage of how it clears the primers And then the completed shell falls out the bottom and the back also, and there's actually a little protrusion on the casting where you can hang a container to catch the shells. You can see it, they're all coming out from the back. You can hang a container from there, so this would do well if it was either elevated a bit more or if it were on the edge of the bench so it could spit the shells over the side. How's the video quality? I'm using an inexpensive webcam, and it's going through my Chromebook. I hope it's making a decent video. I hope the audio sounds okay. I'm right here next to the camera, so it should pick me up relatively well. I still only got 3. I was kind of hoping we'd get a few more before we start running the thing. But what I've got here is kind of like a cooking show. I have things pre-staged. I have 25 primers set here. I don't know if you guys can see those. They're a little bit out of the camera view. I have 25 empty holes here, and I've got my wads over here. This press can have a primer feed. I don't have one, and they're very scarce. I've only ever seen one for sale. It popped up on eBay, and the price was very, very good. I didn't put an initial bid on it, though, because I didn't want to run it up, and I was going to wait and put the bid in at the last minute. And I just simply forgot, and I must not have heard the alarm when it went, and it ended up selling for a song. I would have gladly paid 3 times for it what it sold for, but I wasn't paying attention and I missed it. So I don't have a primer feed. I think the way the primer feed works, though, is very similar to the way the primer feed on a lead load-all works. I don't think it's fully automatic. I think you have to depress it to dispense a primer. So if that's the case, it probably isn't much of a time savings over just feeding one by hand. But here's the instruction paperwork for the thing. It's got the picture here, and I think these were only around in the 90s. Strikes me that 94, 96 time frame. This is a reprint of the instructions that's from Lee's website, and I've run it a fair amount. I've loaded a few hundred rounds on it, and it's worked well for me. I don't think it saves me much time over my 600 Junior just because I go slow on this to try not to make mistakes because it's rather complex. But we'll just do a general overview of the thing. I already talked about how the turret is actually the sizer. The holes in the turret or the shell plate or sizing ring, whatever you choose to call it. Let's see what they call it. They probably have an official name for it. They call it the, let's see. They have a parts list here started at the top of the press. So that's most of the way down. So we'll call it it's not the base. It's not the indexer. Shell plate. They call it a shell plate. And in those days, it was a part number 3021, and it was $15 for the shell plate. And then there's a reinforced, looks like a glass reinforced nylon part that's the base of the press that the handle hooks to and actually slides up and down. They call that the shell plate carrier. But the whole trick of this thing is this center post has a pin in it. And then this black part right here is a clutch and an indexing device. What do they call that? They call it a disconnect spring shell. It's the indexer. They call this the indexer, this nylon piece. This is the part that fails on this press. If you jam something in it, it will ruin this plastic part. And I've seen where a couple of people have made them from aluminum or whatnot because this is not available as a replacement anymore. I don't know if it would be possible to 3D print it. I might look into doing that, and then I would have a spare. But this one does operate very well. So there's a pin in the side of the column, and then when the carrier goes up and down, it indexes the plate. I'll show that action here real quick. So what happens is when you pull the handle down, it obviously pulls the carrier up, and you can see it indexed. The clutch took care of it. It goes to the top. Then when you come back down, it just, see, this is clutching backwards, so it's like a one-way clutch, and then when you come up again, it spins it again, one station. And since there's 8 holes, you would only go 1/8 of a circle each time. So what would that be? 360 divided by 8 that you get each time. I guess it'd be, so that's the action of how it works. So the general operation premise of this, the key thing to remember is the press at halfway. A lot of things happen at halfway. That's where things kind of go into neutral, and you can work on the shot bar and the powder bar. These use the same shot bushings and powder bushings as the Lee Loadall. You get the little set that's in the lid of the Loadall, and you have these plastic bushings that go in the charge bars. They're the same exact bushings as the Loadall, so they work in both. I just bought the replacement parts. I bought the set of the bushings, and then I bought they call this a holder or a storage case, but it's the same as the lid that goes on the top of the Lee Loadall, so it's a nice way to store the bushings. So I have this set up for what I shoot for traps. So it's got a 1 ounce bushing for shot in it, and it's got the Lee number 163 bushing in the powder side, which gives me, in round terms, 19 grains of red dot. That's just kind of the old standard 1 ounce load that I've run for trap for quite some time. The only thing that I've changed or modified on this press is I didn't care for the wad guide. It just has basically a bolt that has the head gone off of it and all that, and it had just the 5/16 shank of the thing that pressed down in the middle of the wads, and I thought it was deforming the wads a little bit, so I turned an aluminum piece and threaded the top of it, and counterbored the bottom to have a wad seater that was closer to the size of the diameter of the wad itself, and spreads the load out a little bit more in the shot cup, so it didn't tend to wrinkle it up when it went in. So that's the only thing I've changed on the whole press. Everything else is totally as it would come from the factory. But you say it runs pretty good. So it's a little different because the shell goes in from the bottom and the shell goes out, and you take it out the bottom. And I use these racks back here. It's not real ergonomic on this edge of my table, but like I said, the key thing is remembering the halfway, because that's where also about right here somewhere is where the clutch release is, and if you have to manually clean up a mess, that's where you can turn it. You probably can't see, but there's a ball bearing that's spring loaded under the shell plate back there, and that's what indexes it. So it indexes on that ball bearing. And then the glass reinforced nylon carrier is what pretty much carries the load of all the operations. And there's a clearance trough in there to clear the primer and whatnot. So if you had a piece of shot fall in there, it wouldn't damage a primer once it was set. And then there's a clearance hole under each one where you can brush out any gunk that got in there. So what happens on this thing is you put the shell in, it pushes it up into here to size it. The next station primes it. This station's the powder charge. Here you seat the wad and throw and then it goes the next one, throws the shot, pre-crimp, final crimp, and eject. So that's kind of how it happens. So the way that this works the best is if you change hands, because when the press is up here, when you raise the carrier up, you need to put your shell in and you need to put your primer in. So it's good to have this hand, the other hand, on the handle. So then when you raise it up to the top, like halfway through the stroke, switch hands. That's where I say the halfway point is good to remember. Move my arm out of the way. Then you would put your wad in, come back down, switch hands halfway, get the shell that comes out, and then you're good to go and start all over again. And it's complex. And then these devices here are the sensors that sense if a case is here. Like you see, I ran that all the way up and it did not throw powder. And you can see there's a bell crank that goes to this powder bar here and a linkage that is actuated off of this. So if there's a shell here, it kicks this piece out. And the way that this push rod is, when you kick this plastic piece out, it catches a shelf in there. And then I'll go part way so you can see it. It only goes over just that little bit. See, now it's actuating that bell crank and the powder bar is coming forward. And if I went far enough, it would dump the powder. So, and then when this comes down, this adjustable screw catches it and resets the charge bar back that way. So, and it does the same thing over here with this case sensor for the shot. So it will only dispense powder or shot if you have a shell in place. So here we are. We still only have 3 people. I was kind of hoping more people would join in. it probably didn't send out a notification to say that I was live, so there's probably a fair amount of folks that don't know that I'm live out here yet. So let's just go ahead and run a couple shells so you guys can see how this thing works. These are typical AA hulls. These are the newer HSs. I'm using the Claybuster CB 1100-12 wads, the pink ones for the 1 ounce loads. And it's number 8 shot, 1 ounce of it. I sometimes do 7.5s for trap and 9s for skeet, but it's easier to just do 8s for everything. And I find that in my 20 gauge mech press, the number 9s in the shot bar are kind of a pain in the rear. They jam every now and then, and just going the little bit bigger, what is it, about 5 thousandths bigger to roll a number 8, it dispenses a lot nicer. So, but anyway, let's go ahead and start. So like I said, we'll start with the press up and this hand on it, and you put the shell in here on this pedestal, and then you put a primer here. And then when you come down, you're pressing that first shell into the shell plate, and that sizes it. And this primer isn't used until it indexes. Now we don't have to set a wad because we don't have a shell over there yet. I think I should run a single all the way around so you guys can see it. That's what we'll do. We'll run a single all the way around and you can see the operations. So now when we raise it, it indexes. Okay, and there's nothing to happen there because there's no shells. When we come back down, it's going to prime it. There, it's primed. So that's good. Then we come back up and it'll index. What happened there? Oh, I was off sequence there. I had to see, we should start over because I was telling you the wrong thing. It doesn't prime until it comes down on this station. Eject it. There, now it primed. Harder to explain than to do. So there, now we're primed after all that confusion. Come back down, it indexes. There comes the powder. Saw the powder bar move, so now it has powder. Now we'll come up this way, and then I have to put the wad in. When I put the wad in, it goes in the guide. Guide goes in the shell, comes all the way down, and now this is compressing the wad into there. Go this way. Now it'll index it, and as it comes up, it'll catch this sensor. You can see that actuate, so we will get shot this time, just through the shot. And then we're going to come up, go to the next station. There's the pre-crimp. Go to the next station, there's the final crimp. And then it'll index one more time, and it ejects the shell out the bottom there. And there's the finished round. So that's the first one. So other than our priming snafu, that was pretty clear. Let's do it again with a single so you can see that again. So we're down. Okay, now our shell will go in there. It's sized. Nothing happens there, it's just traveling up. Deprimes it. Now we have to make sure we have a primer in there. Primer set. Go to the next station, it hits the case sensor, you can see it touch there. Now we get our powder. Saw the bar move forward, we got our powder. Now we'll index. Put the wad in. Now we have a wad seated. Go to the next station. There's our shot. There's our pre-crimp. And there's our final crimp. And there's the ejection, and there's the finished shell. So there's a lot going on there on a progressive loader. Let's see, 67 Rebel, Walter Bunning. Got 5 people now, so I had a couple more come in. We're talking about the Lee Load Fast. It's a progressive shot shell loader. Pretty complex from back in the 90s. I just ran a couple of single shells. Let's do one more single shell, just so everybody can see that process again. See, the first thing we have to do is put on the pedestal. That's the sizing. That's the decap. That's the prime. That's the powder charge. Got to go with a wad. There's the shot. Pre-crimp. Final crimp. And the case ejection. So there's another one. So that's how it does it with the singles. Walter Bunny, can the press be switched to a different gauge or is it specific for one gauge? I believe it's specific for one gauge. I have heard mention that there was a 20 gauge version. I've never seen one. I don't know for sure that there really was. I think it was kind of meant to be 12 gauge for trap shells. It would be a real pain to change it because you have to take it all the way apart to get this shell plate off of here, and you'd have to change every station. For what these things cost, I think you would just buy another one. I don't remember what the retail price was, but it was not that high. I think they were less than $200, maybe even less than that. I don't know. I'd have to look back at old magazines or price lists or something to try to figure that out. But even if there was a 20 gauge one, I don't think it would be practical or desirable to switch calibers on it. It would just be a total crazy thing. But let's do one more that way so everybody can see, and then the new people that came in. So we'll do that. There's the sizing. Here's the decapping. There's the priming. There's the powder. I don't know if you guys can see the push rod go up, hits this bell crank. The bell crank scooches that up and drops the powder charge. Go with a wad. There comes the shot. There's the pre-crimp. There's the final crimp. And then it will eject when it comes to the next station right there. There's what we got. So now I guess we should probably go ahead and run them full. Still 3 viewers. I guess we lost interest there. So let's just go ahead and do it. And I'll probably talk less because this can get confusing. See, I forgot to put the other shell in there, so let's put our other shell in there. So you can see now we have 3 on board. These 2 have been primed. This one has not yet. So now we got to switch hands here and put our wad in. This is where it starts to get interesting. And you'll find out if you actually did put a primer in that one, because we didn't get a powder dump, so we did fine. Okay, so now we got quite a few on board here. Like I said, this gets complex. I dropped the wad, so I'll pick that up. And I got to put another primer in there, put another shell in there. You guys can see this thing's pretty complex. I load a lot of shot shells, and I have to give this thing like every ounce of my concentration, and I still didn't catch that shell like I should have. It requires some attention to detail to run. See, I almost went down there without putting a shell in there. Now that time I started to get a little bit of a crunch there because I had my hand resting on that wad guide and had it going down too soon. Okay, here we go. Here's the primer. It requires attention to detail, that's for sure. And if you forget a primer, it makes a mess, and you got to clean that all up. They come out pretty quick. It's just, I mean, you're not running the thing quickly. It's just doing a lot with each stroke, so you make some progress with it. Whereas when you load with it, with like a 600, you're pulling the handle a lot. So I guess it would depend on if you want to invest handle pulls or if you want to invest brain power, because this one's pretty heavy on the brain power component to keep it happy, because it'll make a fool out of you in a hurry if you're not paying attention. So here we go. Put the last hole on board. And like all things YouTube, it's way easier when the camera's not running. When the camera's running, everything's 3 times as hard as it should be. So we're done with wads for this batch. So there we are, we're done. We got a box of shells done. So let's say it makes a nice crimp. It makes a good looking shell. It's just one of these things you really have to pay attention to run. So let's check up on the chat. Hey, it's Broke Loader. Hi, Broke Loader. I'm glad you stopped by. We're loading some shot shells today on this vintage Lee Load Fast. Let's see. Walter says as long as there's no hiccups, it's pretty fast. Yeah, it is, and I'm going pretty slow because I don't want to screw up in front of you guys. I want you to think that I don't ever make mistakes, even though that's a big fat lie. I make lots of mistakes. But it's nice to see you, Broke Loader. I hope everything's going good at your place. I think everybody's dealing with a different set of challenges these days. And you guys probably can't see it in the picture there, but the primer spit out the bottom, and I just have a little slit in this mount, and I can just pop them out as I go. They said if I don't reload with this a lot. It's more of a novelty than a production device. So I'd like to make a better base for it that raised it up so that the primers could fall in a trap, and that when the shells eject, they could go right into a box or something. But it's a pretty neat machine. It's one thing that's nice is you can, like I said, it's important to remember to put the handle halfway if you want to do anything. Like I said, the halfway gives you the ability to turn the shell plate manually. And then the other thing you can do is you can actually turn off the powder in the shot by rotating this, and then this lifts right off and you can empty it. The bad part is the lid covers both sides, so you have to, when you pour it out, you have to be pretty careful of how you pour the shot and the powder out of it, because you can easily mix your shot and powder. I mean, it's kind of a nice feature that they did it that way, but I prefer individual bottles myself. But this isn't all bad, and like I said, when it's in the halfway position, you can change the powder bushings. I just dumped powder because I wasn't paying attention as I said that. But like I said, these things can make a mess in a hurry. Let's get the vacuum and clean that up real quick. I guess that's my word to the wise for the day, is if you use a progressive shot shell reloader, have a vacuum cleaner close by, because you're going to do dumb stuff like that. So there, now we've dumped the powder out of it, and we can slide out, and there goes the bushing down on the floor. Only on YouTube, guys, only on YouTube. Wow, it must have bounced under something. I'm going to have to maybe get a flashlight even. Well, that really went down under there a ways. I'll have to get a light so I can see where it went. But I showed the guys earlier, it uses the standard Lee bushing. So like this would be a powder bushing here, and they have the size written right on them. So you look them up in the chart, and then they just go here like this, and they real easy to change. Same thing with the shot one. There's a bushing for the shot that does the same thing. So it's pretty clever. I guess the warning here would be is don't run it without the bushing, because you would get a very hefty powder charge. That much red dot, you probably wouldn't be able to crimp the shell, but you wouldn't want to try to crimp the shell either. It would be an ugly scene. Yes, it's the same bushing as the load-all broke loader. They're exactly the same. So I'm going to get a flashlight so I can find that bushing, because I'm kind of dead in the water here until I find it. There it is. It was a lot closer than I imagined it would be. It's just that in the dark, the red didn't show up very well. For this trap load that I use, this is the 163 bushing. Like I said, it's roughly 19 grains, I think, if I remember right, of red dot. There. So anyway, that's how that all works. So we ran 25, and you got to see how it works, and everybody's happy. So and, move on to whatever else everybody's interested in. So hopefully, maybe tomorrow I'll get out to the range and do some rifle shooting, maybe some pistol shooting. I've picked up a couple of items that I haven't shot yet, and I'd like to get them out. But so I guess we've got 67 Rebel SST AMC Walter Bunning broke loader in the side chat. I show I got 5 people. I don't have 5 people chatting, so somebody's doing the lurker mode. But I can run some more. I can count out some more shells and do some more if you guys want to see more. Or we can leave it at that. It's I don't think that there's a whole bunch more people coming around, so maybe we'll go ahead and wrap it up if unless you guys want to see more of it. So what kind of projects have you guys been working on? I've been doing I've been doing a little bit of 30-06 fooling around. I picked up a 1917 Enfield that's been sporterized, and I've been having some fun shooting that. I took it all apart, cleaned it all up, and all that, and I've shot a little bit. There was one set of videos from the range that I did on that, so you guys may have seen that. I've been working on some more ammo for that. I grabbed a couple more Argentine Mausers and some pieces and parts, so I've got a cavalry carbine and an engineer's carbine both. The engineer's carbine is a nice matching number rifle. I was very fortunate to get one that had all the right stuff, so that's gonna be pretty neat. I needed to get a couple replacement parts for it to make it original because it had replacement parts in the bolt. It had a replacement cocking piece and a replacement safety flag and stuff, so I ordered originals for that. I just need to go through that rifle and clean it up and put the right parts back in it. And fooling around with that. Let's see, Walter says, the girlfriend just bought a 380. I've never loaded 380, so studying up and rounding up the gear. I reload a little bit of 380, Walter. I have a Glock in 380, the Glock 42, and I enjoy shooting that. And I have a kind of a house load that I run with copper-plated bullets that is kind of my practice ammo that I use for it. And then I do shoot some cast out of it too. These precision cast is what I run. These are this is a company that used to be right here in local to me. It doesn't exist anymore, so these are kind of vintage precision cast bullets, hard cast. They were in Springport, Michigan, which is 10 miles up the road. But this is a hard cast 95 grain round nose that's got hard blue lube, and I've shot some of these in 380, and that little Glock likes them real well. You'll have people tell you that the polygonal rifling in a Glock doesn't work with cast bullets. I've not found that to be true. I've had very good results with cast bullets in Glock pistols in 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 380. I've shot a lot of cast, some lubed with hard lube, some lubed with softer lube, some powder coated. It's all worked just fine. Just a matter of if you like smoke or not with the lubes. The powder coating eliminates the smoke. She got the Smith & Wesson MP Easy. Boy, that's a nice looking outfit. The package deal that they sell that comes with the hearing protection and the case and stuff, and it's very attractively priced, both in the 380 and the 9. But the little 380 Shield Easy, that I handled one down to the shop, and I really liked it. I thought it was a nice looking handgun in a competitive pricing too. Walter says he swapped all his Glock barrels out. I have one cut rifle barrel in a 40 in a Glock 22, and it's a long story. I don't want to bore you all with it, but the one that I bought came with both, and I don't think that the factory barrel had ever been fired, so it's just kind of set to the side, and it's got it's a Wilson barrel, if I remember right. Price was good, easy to rack for her. Yes, I think that's a big benefit of those, is that the spring is such that the slide is easy to rack. I have a Walther CCP, and it's a delayed gas blowback, and it also has a very easy to operate slide, very similar to like the Easy 9. Got the Wolf barrel, broke loader said. Yeah, I've read good things about those too. Yeah. And I had from my brother, I had a cut rifle barrel. Was it a Triple K or KKM, or it's another one of the aftermarket barrels for Glock? And my brother gave me one, but that ended up out at my dad's, and he put it in. My dad bought a Glock 22 and put it in his, because the one that I picked up already had that Wilson barrel, so I didn't need the I can't remember if it's Triple K or it's some acronym, 3 letters that has at least 2 Ks in it. So I don't remember the brand name, but they're supposed to be a pretty decent barrel, but I don't remember the name of it. So anyway, you guys have seen the Lee Load Fast now. I don't know if broke loader. This is a reprint that I did from Lee's website of the instructions when I first got it, and got it all going, and it's been fun. I'd say I don't use it a lot. It's more of a novelty or a piece of history for me to play with. It's along the lines of some of the other collectible things I have, like that old Lyman Trueline Junior press that I showed in a video a bit ago. It's fun to fool with them now and then, but I load the vast majority of my shot shells on a Mech 600 Junior, so that's what I crank them out on for the most part. But this one is interesting and fun. It's a different approach than most of them. The way that the shell comes in from the bottom and is sized. The shell is actually sized by the shell plate, which I think that's a nice feature. The bad part of that is the shell is captive. If you make a mistake, you can't pull out one shell. You have to spin the thing all the way around or disassemble the press. I've done it that way where I've disassembled it to take things apart and fix the error. So that's another way to go about it, so, which is kind of a hassle too. And that's the way that it is. You can do that to take care of it. I think the last time I took it apart, I did it a little different way. If you move the wad guy or the wad seating stem out of the way, there's a screw right here that holds this top casting onto the shaft. If you do that, you can lift that out of the way, and then you can lift the indexing clutch thing and the shell plate off the top. You have to take these two. Actually, I think what I've done more than anything is you take these two screws out. These two screws are what hold the shell plate down, and if you take those out and you carefully lift this, you can rotate it, one station at a time and pop the shell out and get back in sequence. But it's best to just not make errors because it's a hassle to get things cleaned up when you make a mess. Broke loader's got two Mech Juniors, one for 12 and one for 410. Very similar for here. I have one for 20 and one for 410 for shooting. Most of my skeet shooting, I shoot a 20 gauge, as does my son. When we shoot trap, of course, we shoot 12 gauge, so I have one for each. I just recently changed my setup on the 600 Junior for the skeet rounds to use Herco because it's a little bulkier, and I was starting to struggle a little bit with the Remington STS hulls. They seem to vary in length a lot, and I had better luck if I had a little bit taller column height. So I went with Herco because I could go up a couple bushing sizes, a little more bulk, right around 1200 foot per second with number 9s, 7/8 of an ounce. So I switched that around just to make the shells load a little easier on that particular press with the wads that I'm using and whatnot. So I'd always shot unique. That was just what my dad always used. So when I started loading them myself, I basically just used the same setup. So just here a week or two ago, I switched to Herco in the 20 gauge skeet rounds just to get a little more bulk in the case below the wad. Yeah. So I got 4 people still. Broke loader, Walter, probably 67 Rebel, but he hasn't said anything. I don't know who else is out there, but if you're here and you want me to say hi, say something in the chat. If you got anything that you want to talk about, we can do more with this load fast here. We could do something different. I'm pretty open-minded. I was just kind of bored and decided to throw a live stream up real quick. It's not as fun as the range ones, but it's something to do on a Thursday. Broke loader. I find myself using the Lee Load-All for 20 gauge. I've never run a Lee Load-All. I wouldn't mind having one to play with. I do have a primer feed for a Lee Load-All. I found one of those that was brand new, that was cheap. I think I paid $12 for it. It's the set that comes with the couple of trays and all that. So I have a primer feed. So if I get a Lee Load-All, I'll get one of the older ones that will work with the primer feed. I wouldn't mind playing with one. I do have a Lee Load-All Junior. Have you guys seen those? It's really funny. It's just a molded plastic thing, and it's a riot. I loaded some shot shells on that just for fun. It's a funny little plastic thing, and it's just a single square column, and it's got a base that you screw down, and then the plastic column goes up and down with a it's a bar stock handle, and it's pretty interesting. And it's in the Lee catalogs and stuff. I loaded some stuff with it. I used it to load some buckshot rounds when I was fooling around with buckshot because it's kind of nice. And then of course I do have the classic Lee loaders for 12 gauge, 16 gauge, and 20 gauge, and they're fun to play with too. But other than that, I just, like I said, I've been fooling with the 30-06 a little bit. The Dillon is still, my 550 is still set up over here because of those. I made those few videos. One of them was I made that video with the 222 brass from Broke Loader, and I did some 6.5 Swedish on the Dillon. Treetop Flyer sent me some. I bought a old set of dies from him, and he threw in some 6.5 brass with it, so that was really cool. So I did a video with that stuff. But I use the Dillon a fair amount. I load a lot of rifle stuff on it. I think there's some real advantages to it. I use a lot. I have presses of all different colors. Use them all. I like them all. It's a fun hobby, and I like using different equipment and whatnot. Well, what else you guys got? See, we're down to staring at the screen. You can see me staring at the screen. We're down to our 4 people here. Like I said, I can run another box on this thing if you guys want to see it, or I can do something different. I'm pretty open-minded, and wanted to just entertain myself for a little bit, do a little bit of a live stream because I haven't in a while. I enjoy it. I enjoy the interaction with the guys out there and doing various things. That I hope to get to the range more this week. Say we shot trap Tuesday night. My son was really itching to shoot trap. He hadn't in a while, and got him out and shot some 16-yard with the guys, and he was breaking the birds good. We shot 4 rounds. The last round on the first 3 station, he was hitting the birds hard. Must have had the lead just right or whatever, and was making good progress there. And one of the things when you're shooting with, my son's 16, and when you're shooting with them and you're kind of keeping an eye on them and watching them, you don't really pay as much attention to your own shooting as you probably should. So I've shot some pretty poor scores watching him shoot. Broke Loader says run it. He wants to see it. Okay, well, we'll have to, let me get some, I'll get some holes around. I'll get some primers staged here too, because I like to count out the right amount of things so that I don't make a mistake. So we'll go with some primers over here. I don't know if I'll be able to do this the way I'm trying to do it. It won't fit probably, but we'll just do it the hard way. I'll dump 10. They don't have to be all pretty. And then I'll dump 10 more. And then I'll dump 5. This one was a spare from a different point in time. There we go. All right, let me get some holes and some wads around here. I showed them earlier. It's the Clay Buster 1100-12s. $25. So I just need some holes now. I'll be back in a second. I'll grab some holes. These are some of the dead soldiers from Tuesday night. Saw a couple when I was counting them out that are starting to get a little haggard up at the top of the crimp. I'll shoot them with a little bit of a split in there as long as the crimp still looks pretty good. But these, like this one right here, it's you can see that one's starting to get the signs of a split. So this may not make it. It'll make it through this load, but it may not get another. I think red dot's a little hard on them too, and I put a relatively decent crimp on them. And my son's running them through an auto loader. He shoots an 1100 competition trap. He shoots left-handed. He's left eye dominant. So that 1100, you get a little bit of this feed wear on them. And I shoot an 870 most of the time, so we're running the holes out of the magazine. Well, not out of the magazine, out of the you're closing the action and they're feeding them in. So we're like this one here, and these have probably got 4 or 5 on them anyway. I don't keep track. I just cull them out as they start to look bad. But this whole float of holes is starting to get to where it's probably just about finished. And I have several flats of new AA's that I can tap into and start shooting up when holes are gone. But I probably got, I don't even know how many AA holes I have, but there's no shortage of them. I got plenty. But we'll just we'll run them and see what we get. So is this the new Thursday thing? Monday through Thursday got stale with the range day live. Well, thanks, Brokeloader. I appreciate you saying that. I don't know if it's a new Thursday thing. I've been working from home, so I'm sitting here doing computer work at home all day and working with people from work all day, and I just felt like doing something. And the weather is right on the edge. I thought about going to the range and doing some shooting, and and then I got thinking about it. I was like, well, you guys got to see my son loading shot shells on the 600 Junior. Now you can watch me load them on this load fast. Something to do, and so it was all set up and ready to go. I just had to mount it on the bench, but I don't know. I don't have a problem with doing a live stream now and then. I think there's a lot of live streams. I think one now and then will be okay. I don't know that I'll do one every week, but every now and then is fun. And 4 people is pretty thin. I'm glad you guys are here. If there were 30 people on here right now, I guess I would say, oh yeah, we need to do this. But and I don't think it probably didn't send out a notification, so a lot of people probably don't even realize we're doing this right now. So but okay, well, let's go ahead and do this. I'm gonna stop my yapping and start my loading. And if I yap too much, I'll mess up. So I'm gonna kind of yap less and load more. And if you guys have a question or want to say something, say it, and I'll try to see it in the side chat. I got 4 now, so that's cool. Well, so let's get started. I see one problem I'm going to have already. I need to put those rounds in a box because I don't have any place to put the new ones because both of my trays are full. So let's go ahead and box up these rounds. I didn't have any place to put my shells. Set those off to the side. Okay, now we're back in business. You got a notice? Walter Bunny got a notice. Brokeloader only stumbled on it. Well, I'm glad you made it here regardless, Brokeloader. Oh, I forgot to put the wad in there. I wasn't sure where I was. Getting it started, you got to really pay attention to that. Okay, there we go. So now we're back in sequence again. It's quite a machine. It takes a lot of concentration to keep things straight. It would be easier too if I had this set up a little bit more ergonomically, because I'm kind of cramped over on this side with all the stuff going on over there. I see I blew it. I got my hands all mixed up. See there, now I'm back in sequence. I don't know that I'm quite ready to put my son on this one yet. I think I would be cleaning up a lot of shot and powder. Because if you get it out of sequence, man, it is so easy to make a mess. There goes that one. Trying to get out of the way of the camera, so I'm standing at an odd angle. That feels a little weird there. Oh, yeah, see, I didn't have that lined up with the hole. That was my fault. I was yapping and not looking, and I didn't have that lined up with the hole, but we can fix it. These problems are easy to fix. But I won't do that on this press. I'll wait to do that on a 600 Junior, where I can control a little bit better. There. Yeah, I didn't have that lined up with the hole in the shell plate, and I crunched it a little bit. Anybody say, I've been messaging everyone, my fingers are tying in knots. Hey dude, bro quarter. Floyd Hicks is here. Thorax is here. Cool. Awesome. We're just loading some shot shells on this vintage Lee Load Fast. It's quite a machine, frankly. I take my time with it because it's very easy to make a mistake. I laid those primers there, I let some of them roll away. So we need a couple more. That's, rather than try to find the ones I let roll away, I'll just get a couple more out. I must have had more than 25 shells there because I'm out of wads now too. So that's what I did. I thought I only put 25 in there, but I obviously put more than 25 in there. I must have lost count when things were cooking. So. All right, well there. We made 3 extras. I somehow counted 28. But anyway. Oh, I see that you attract all the heavy hitters, William. Oh, I don't know so much about that. All the heavy hitters. Ain't that something? Yep, so we got all of our spent primers here in the bottom, and they spit out down the shaft there and all that. So hey, you guys got to see this thing load 2 boxes of shells. It's an interesting beast, I'll tell you. I like the fact that it has the case sensors and it only throws the powder if there's a shell in place. I like that. I like that it uses the inexpensive load all bush. That's nice because you have the full set of bushings for $10. That's really nice. The shells run good. The ones that I've loaded with it, I've fed them through 2 different 870s and an 1100. One of my 870 trap guns, I've run a fair amount of them. My son's 1100 trap gun has run a fair amount of them, and then I have a 870 Police Magnum that I wanted. The gun hadn't been shot much. I took it out and shot a couple of rounds of skeet with it just to run some rounds through it and proof test it, I guess, and it ran them just fine too. So it makes a good shell, makes a good looking crimp. See there, they run good. I don't know that it saves any time over my 600. I certainly don't have the confidence to run it fast. It's one of those things where I'm very, very cautious with it because it'll make a mess in a hurry if you're not paying attention. But once you get the shell plate full of shells, it kicks one out each time, so that's nice. You're not pulling the handle as much as on a 600, but it's certainly not like a high-end progressive by any means, but it works. It really does work. And I bought it. I've had it, I don't know, year and a half, maybe couple years. I don't know. I found it for sale and I bought it because I was curious about it. I'd read about them and had never tried one, and I just wanted to try it, so I bought it and spent a little time cleaning it up and got it put together. And it didn't have. It only had the set of bushings in it that it came with, which was an ounce and an eighth shot bushing, and I don't remember what powder bushing, but I think it was set up for something pretty close to what it is right now, other than the fact that it was an ounce and an eighth load, rather than I only shoot 1 ounce. And if my son wasn't a beginning trap shooter, I'd probably be down to 7/8 of an ounce in my 12 gauge hulls because at 16 yards, I think I can get away with 7/8 pretty easily. Having that little extra payload for my son is a good thing. And of course, him shooting an 1100, I don't want to back it off too much because then you got to start fooling the shotgun to run them. It runs these just fine, so it's best to just let well enough be. Walter Bunning says, clearly a machine that requires close attention to the task at hand. Yeah, it does. Well, you saw me make a couple of mistakes just in running only 2 boxes, and I was obviously on YouTube trying to talk. It's pretty easy to make a mistake. See, the people are making over the camp stove shot makers welding up the steel box and drilling holes for the dribbler inserts. I haven't ever made any shot. I still just pay whatever they're asking for it. I have shot some reclaimed shot that knocks a bit off it, depending on if you can find that. When there's a lot of it, there's been times where the reclaimed shot was pretty inexpensive, but I still just go down to the shop and buy it. They give me a good price on stuff, and so I just do it that way. So who all we got here? We got 5 people, and I think we got Thorzax and Walter Bunning and Broke Loader, and we had Floyd Hicks was here for a while, and Rebel 67 SSTANC was here for a while. So. Yep, so we'll be back out. Definitely shooting skeet on Sunday morning, as long as they don't close things down. And when my son's back on Tuesday, we'll get out Tuesday night and shoot a few lines of trap again. He's really fired up about shotgunning. I didn't do a lot of shotgunning last year. I mean, there's been some years where I've shot a lot of shot shells, and there's other years, like last year, I don't even know that I shot a round of skeet last year. I think I shot a couple of rounds of trap, but nothing serious. You know, we every now and then my dad will call and say, "Hey, why don't you come?" You know, whatever. But recently, one of my other friends at one of the clubs, he says, "Hey, you know, we need more shooters. Why don't you come out?" And I said, "Okay, fine." So I, kind of went out, and then when my son caught wind of it, he was all on board and ready to go. So he's doing fine. I'm amazed how well he shoots for someone who has as few rounds under his belt as he does. I don't know, he's probably only shot 30, 40 rounds of trap ever, and he's consistently 20, 22, and was watching him a little bit, and the only thing that was getting him Tuesday night was kind of the changing conditions. As the light went down and the birds looked a little different, and then we had some wind, and I think he wasn't adjusting his lead quite as much when they were going the one way. But I was watching him, and he had 3 or 4 birds on station 2 that he thought were lost. And I was watching him, and he was getting breaks on him, but just barely. And he's shooting the bottom off them. So I said, "Hey, these birds are real flat. Cover them a little bit more." And he covered them, and the next station he was chewing them up. So young eyes, fearless. When he goes after him, he gets them. So he's doing just fine. It's a joy to do it. Hey, there it is. It's PC Bullet Empire. How are you, Tim? It's nice to see you. You still have to get me your address. I got something to send to you once you get me your new address. So you can send that to me, and I'll get it on the way. William, because of your prior occupation, your show is an awesome show, kind of clinical clean. You have a great show. You make great videos. Well, gee, thanks, Dave. I appreciate you saying that. I'd like to do better. I'd like to do better. I wish I could. I've been struggling to try to make the one-take video. I usually end up doing a little bit of editing. My problem is that I run long. I want to show a lot in the videos, and because of that, I end up shooting a lot of footage for it, and I end up chopping it up to try to keep people's interest. When I look at my statistics, seldom do people watch the whole video, regardless of the length. So I purposely made some really short ones. I made some that were on the order of 3-4 minutes, and you still get people that. And I think the statistics get skewed a little bit. I think some people end up on one of my videos that didn't want to be there at all. So they might see it for 3, 4, 5 seconds and they click off of it. I wish there was a way for the metrics to show, how many people stayed in it for X, I'm interested in this, and they click right off of it. I think that throws your statistics, and it takes, so one guy watched it all the way through, the next guy got there by accident and closes the video right away. So then it shows my average view time is half of the video length. Now obviously 2 samples isn't enough. But I would like to really see, because some people say a 10-minute video is okay. Some people say 5. I have a hard time with a 5-minute video to get what I want, to show anything that I want to show. And, the live streams are a little different. You can be a little bit more wordy or show more, and it's okay. So, that's where I'm kind of at on it. Dude, you can't take the 4-0 out of you. 4-0 out of me, 4-0. I'm not quite following what you meant there, but if you explain, I can expand on it. But, so what's the Emperor up to today? You're not welding today? Figured. I hope it's not too much more of a drive to work for you at the new place, Tim. Relocating is hard enough, and it's even worse if you have to move to some place where your drive ends up longer and you start spending more time behind the windshield than behind the scope. I'll box these up here. So, yep. Well, Tim, I was telling the guys I was showing this old Lee progressive loader. I don't know if you've seen one of these before. This is a Lee Load Fast. It's was Lee's progressive shot shell loader from the 90s. I don't think they were around long. It requires a lot of attention to run it, and it may be a tiny bit, if I run it a lot and I get comfortable again, it may be a little faster. Now, back in the day when I was a kid, if I ran a 600 Junior crazy ape fast at the risk of accidentally letting go of the handle and spilling shot all over the place and stuff, I have loaded a box of 25 shells on a 600 Junior in just a little over 5 minutes. I think 7 minutes is a better number. 7's a pretty quick pace, but it's safe and I don't make mistakes. At 5, I have to fly, and I haven't tried that in a long time. But I haven't timed what it takes me to load a box on this because I'm constantly watching everything and trying not to screw it up because there's so many things going on because there's 6 things going on at once, and you can really make a mess in a hurry. And I was telling the guys earlier, about the time you think you know everything about loading shot shells, you throw this thing in front of yourself and you find out, holy cow, I'm a fool, because it'll make a monkey out of you in a hurry if you're not paying attention. I've run 4.0 evals. Okay, you know what's funny? That's an interesting concept because right when I got out in 94, 95-ish, they changed the scale and they weren't on a 4.0 scale anymore. But, I've heard all of the arguments about evaluations in the Navy. All the arguments, well, everybody can't be a 4.0, because then how do you rank anybody? Then we'd hear of the, if we call you straight 4.0, there's no room for improvement. And then you get the, I got 5 E5s in the division, and I need to rank you guys. So 2 of you are going to get 4.0s, 2 of you are going to get 3.8s, and a couple of poor souls might end up with 3.6s. Now, one of them deserved them or less, but I was pretty much 4.0s. And then I had the other angle where, I had one senior chief where she figured that if all of her sailors below her were 4.0 sailors, then, that meant that she was pretty squared away in training us. So I've heard it all. I've heard it all, but yeah. What's funny, Dave, is I hadn't thought about evals. I should, funny, let's see if I can do something here. I'm going to open a file drawer here. Let's see what I got here. If I can find anything. Let's see. Here's a couple of pieces of Navy paperwork. Let's see what I got here. This was my package, or part of my package, when I checked on board USS Independence. I don't know if you guys can see here, but Department of the Navy, CV-62, blah, blah, blah. What does it say here? Dear WCChapin, I would like to welcome you aboard and congratulate you on your assignment to USS Independence CV-62, home ported in Yokosuka, Japan. Your tour with USS Independence will be fast-paced and exciting, with the opportunity of enjoying travel and adventure in the Far East while serving with the Navy's only forward-deployed aircraft carrier. You are about to become a member of the crew that is unsurpassed in their pride and performance of professionalism, each of whom is dedicated to keeping freedom's flagship #1 in the defense of our country. Oh, and then they're going to ease my transition, too. My transition was pretty good. I was unaccompanied. This was my welcome aboard package for the Independence. Check this out. This is super cool. They gave us these cards to carry with us in our pocket or in our wallet, and it's a little bit bigger than a business card, and it says, I am lost. Please help me find my way to Yokosuka Navy Base. Phone 0468261911. And then on the back, it's the same thing written in something that a Japanese person could read. So that's when I would get, if I were to get lost out in town, somebody could get me back to the ship. Isn't that funny? And then here's, welcome aboard package, a nice booklet, fancy schmancy stuff from Fleet Activities, Yokosuka, Japan. That's pretty cool stuff. Oh, let's see here. Bureau of Naval Personnel, 2nd Navy Annex, Washington, D.C. What's this? Attention Command Crew. This is SEP papers, probably. Navy. Oh, this is the when you separate. This is some verbiage that I'm supposed to show people that tells how good I am and what I learned in the Navy. My separation. Oh, here we go. This is separation papers too. This is officer in charge, fiscal section, code 30, personal support detachment, Treasure Island, San Francisco, California. We got here. Here's my orders. Transfer to the U.S. Naval Reserve and release to inactive duty of United States Navy personnel. Chapin William Curtis, Air Traffic Controller 6902, which means I'm Air Ops CATSI qualified. Oh, here's per diem check, blah, blah, blah. Yep, here's my travel claim. I got a lot of this stuff that I kept. Let's see here. Oh, let's hear. This might be interesting. This is some kind of Navy stuff here. What do we got? Oh, this is my pack out when they were shipping my stuff back from. You hear about things in triplicate? This is like in nine-tuplet. Still got all these carbons on here. That's funny. Oh, here's some of my old notes. I get 1 day of travel. 10 o'clock, I had to be at the bus at PSD on 18th of June. I came home on United Airlines Flight 852 from Tokyo, Narita to San Francisco, and I left at 16:15 local time in Tokyo. Got to San Francisco at 09:30 the next morning. Of course, it'd be in a time zone change too. Was going to have tax to get to the airport. Need to have my 16th, I need to get my checkout card done. The 18th in the morning, I need my pay record, service record, my medical, dental, and PRT folder. That was my personal notes of what I needed to do the day I shipped out of Japan. Crazy stuff, man. Super crazy stuff. DPM enlisted activity, blah, blah, blah. Ship my stuff to my home of record, blah, blah, blah. This isn't what I was looking for, though. Dave was talking about evals. I was trying to find an eval. I've got them all still. Probably the best thing that I have in all of my Navy stuff is when I received a Navy Achievement Medal. It was for I didn't deserve it. We had an import period, and they sent me TAD to the deck department and sending an air traffic controller to the deck department. That's like a foreign country, man. It's like a whole different. Here's my vaccination record. It's a whole different part of the Navy. I mean, I was an aviation type, and everything we did was totally different than, as far as just even the way you talk to each other. And so they sent me to be the lead petty officer of this project to rehabilitate and paint the island on the aircraft carrier. And it's bigger than a house, So you have to chip the paint and prep it and paint it and get the supplies and stuff and this and that and the other. So I was fortunate, the people that they assigned to me, there were a couple of sailors that knew how to do all that stuff, and some of them that knew the right ropes to, they all had hookups and ways to do things. So, I let them run the show. And then on about the third day, I started to have my guys that didn't want to show up, and this and that and the other, and, and all the stuff you have to go through and blah, blah, blah. A whole different thing for me because I'd never had to deal with common sailors when I was in the Navy. I dealt with air traffic controller types, and they were all pretty squared away people. So this was the first time that I had to lead anybody that it was even a challenge at all. Well, I got through it. We got the project done. Everything was fine. And at the end, the officer that actually I said the deck department ended up being, trying to remember how'd that all go. And I'm lying to you. That wasn't my Navy Achievement Medal. That was a letter of commendation. I got the letter of commendation for that. But anyway, that was well written. But the one I was actually thinking about was my Navy Achievement Medal was for when the ship was in dry dock. I was reassigned to work for a guy named Lieutenant Shablusky, Ken Shablusky, and he was a P3 Orion systems operator type. He wasn't the pilot. He ran the magnetic anomaly detection stuff and all that. And I ended up working for Lieutenant Shibleski for a few months. And when the ship was in port, they do a lot of ship's maintenance, and you need materials for all that maintenance. Well, Lieutenant Shibleski was put in charge of managing all of these materials for the ship's maintenance that the crew was doing during this availability. And I was assigned to him to be his worker. And we did a lot of computer stuff, some database stuff, did this, that, and the other. And he was the one that got me the Navy Achievement Medal, and he wrote it. And Lieutenant Shibleski was probably the most squared away lieutenant I'd ever been around. And this citation he wrote for my Navy Achievement Medal, it's like a work of art. I should pull that out and read it for you because it's full of Navy speak, and it's just, you would think that I won the Battle of Iwo Jima or something. It's just, it was something else. So, oh boy, I'm rambling about Navy stuff. I only got 3 people, so I scared everybody away. So, but I know Dave likes the Navy stuff. This could be wild turkey surprise. WCChapin. This is old. Let's see what's in there. Huh, this is a letter of commendation from the commanding officer, Naval Air Station Lemoore, California, to Airman William Curtis Chapin, United States Navy. Letter of commendation is with distinct pleasure that I present the Naval Air Station Lemoore Sailor of the Quarter Award to you for the period of October through December 1991. Wow, that's cool. Full of Navy speak there too. Yep. Yeah, it's old memories, guys. Old memories. So I must have scared everybody off with my old Navy remembrance diatribe. I'm down to 3 viewers. Let's see, what else do I got in here? There's some more stuff. Here's some training records. There you go, Dave. There's my training record from the Navy. I still have all that. It's got all my air traffic control qualifications on it. Here's my John Johnson and Mike Chemist, guys I served with on the U.S. Independence. This was a graded run on Marshal control aboard the USS Independence. The weather was instrument conditions, case 3 recovery, heavy workload. The complexity was mostly very difficult. 1 run, sat on everything. Annual over-the-shoulder evaluation, very professional job working a random recovery, excellent vectoring technique out of the point and near the point for interval. Meets or exceeds certification requirements by Chris Justice. Chris Justice was something else. He was this red-haired guy, and he retired out of the Navy, ended up being a Master Chief, and meets or exceeds certification requirements, outstanding equipment knowledge, handled crosslocks. He's talking about ACLS, Automatic Carrier Landing System. Completed promptly. No better than I have seen. No better than Mo Better. Oh, this was Tony Malvoisin. Mo Better. Tony was funny. He's a singer now. I've watched him. Mo Better than I have seen in a while. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Yeah, Navy stuff was cool, Broke Loader. It's something I'm really glad I did. It's PQS qualified and all this stuff signed by Captain Sullivan. Captain Sullivan was our Air Ops officer, or actually our operations officer on the USS Independence. But yeah, this was my training jacket. So a lot of the stuff had been purged out of it that was previous. It's mostly still just got stuff in it that was applicable to being on the ship. So here's all of my, this is all of my Navy quals on this page. Air traffic control quals are on this page. So here's your basic damage control, chemical, biological, radiological, defense, and firefighting, and all that crazy stuff that we were qualifying. This is the coolest things. Is in the Navy, and Dave probably has seen this. Depending on the level of the officer that signs something, they use different colors of ink. And our department had always used purple. So our department head, and then this is um, this the operations officer was Sullivan. He signed here and he used blue. Typically on the ship, green, purple, and blue were at the top, like the XO and the captain. Usually signed in different colors. So it's always interesting. Like you see here, we get down to the air operations officer, Commander Bolliard. He's in purple. Commander Bolliard was really a cool guy, very intelligent and well-spoken guy, and I really liked him. I enjoyed working for him there in Catsy on the ship. And after I'd gotten to know him a little bit, he came up to me one day and he handed me this folder, and he says, "I'd like you to read this and see what you think of it." And it was his thesis from the Naval War College. I was like, "Wow, it was cool," because I had no idea what it was, and I asked him. He says, "Just go read it." And I went and read it, and it was incredible. And it was really funny because I wish I still had a copy of it. Maybe I could find it online. His name was Bolliard, Bolyard, and this was in 1993 that he showed it to me, and I don't know what year he wrote it, but he wrote his thesis from the Naval War College on the feasibility of unmanned aerial vehicles for warfare. And I don't remember all the content of it, but I was a radio controlled airplane guy a long, long time. Still do it, and that was part of the reason why he wanted me to look at it. And it was really interesting to read something like that. Now I think back about having a naval officer hand me that in 1993, 1994, and where we are today with that technology, where not only is the military using it, but the average realtor has one, or a friend has one, taking pictures. Where I work, we use drones for all kinds of stuff. It's really amazing that's what he wrote about way back then. Yep. Okay, well, I'm probably boring you guys to death. I got 3. It's probably just Thorax and Broke Loader, and I don't know if Tim's still here or not, but I show 3, but kind of boring you guys with my Navy nostalgia. I was trying to find an eval for Dave, and they might be upstairs in a different box. My separation eval was pretty well written. Not sure what this is. This is ready reserve mobilization paperwork. I did roughly 6 years of active duty, so I still had 4 years of inactive reserve obligation when I separated. Yep. I'll have to dig some of those out for you, Dave, and show them to you another time, because my Navy nostalgia is boring everybody here. Pretty good stuff. Well, since it's kind of quieted down, maybe I'll wrap this up, and we'll think about doing another one another time when we got more to do or more to talk about. Has anybody got anything to say here as I wind this down? But I've had fun spending some time online with you guys. And any of you that are still left, Broke Loader, you're still here. I've got your 222 brass on deck. I need to get back at that project. I got distracted by a couple of milsurps that I've been fooling around with, but I'll get back on that 222 and get those out to the range for you. And I do appreciate you sending me that stuff way back when. And Thorax, thanks for stopping by. And whoever else is number 3, I don't know who you are. But, so thanks everybody for coming around. I do appreciate that. And we can do a Thursday now and then. So everyone's quiet, so I'll go ahead and wrap it up. And we'll talk to everybody soon enough. Be safe and take care of yourselves, and pray for the people you care about. And we'll talk to y'all later.